In part one of this series, I explained that no race, religion, nation, or ethnic group has experienced the relentless persecution that the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob have known for thousands of years. One of the great marvels of human history is the continued existence of the Jewish race. Early in Israel's history, one nation after another rose up to attack, plunder, and enslave the Jews. Then came the Roman occupation, and after the death of Jesus Christ, hostility between the Jews and Imperial Rome festered for nearly 30 years. Eventually, with the fall of Jerusalem in 70 AD, Jews were scattered across the face of the earth. Some stayed behind, however, preferring to bow to Rome rather than face the uncertainties and hardships of dispersion. Over the ensuing centuries, the offspring of those Jews who remained in the land would face Islamic invasions, Crusader conquests, and European attacks. But what of the other Jews during all this time, most of whom had been scattered over the face of the earth? Had they fared better than their brothers and sisters who had stayed in the land? In 1096, as many as 12,000 Jews were killed in Germany within 3 months. In 1290, Jews were banished from England. And in 1306, Jews were banished from France. In 1348, Jews were blamed for the European plague. In 1492, the year that Columbus discovered America, under Ferdinand and Isabella, who wanted to make Spain a purely Catholic nation, the Spanish Inquisition was launched. Jews living in Spain in large numbers were required to convert and be baptized, or they would be killed, imprisoned, or driven out of the land. As they were uprooted and driven from country to country, there was no haven at the end of the road, no protection along the way, an ever-present danger of robbers and murderers. They were people without a land. Lies were spread that the Jews killed infant Gentile children and used their blood in the observance of Passover. In many lands, they were often required to wear a badge of identification. The women had to wear bells on the bottoms of their dresses as marks of shame. Jews normally could not own ground or hold a governmental office, attend educational institutions, or work in the trade guilds. Usury, the lending of money for interest, which in those days was viewed as the lowest of activities, merchandising, and shoe repair were among the few areas of gainful employment available to the Jew. Parenthetically, it is for those reasons that when Jews arrived in America around the turn of the 20th century, they went immediately into merchandising and insisted, now that opportunity presented itself, that their children take advantage of educational opportunities. In 1516, the first ghetto where Jews were herded together, placed within a restricted area and deprived of normal opportunities, was established in Venice. At the beginning of the 19th century, the largest Jewish population in the world was in Russia, and in 1883, the government permitted the infamous pogroms. More than 500 Jewish villages were victimized by over 1,200 pogroms. More than 60,000 Jews were killed, and many times that number were wounded. Here was the genuine Fiddler on the Roof. On a personal note, it was these very pogroms which motivated my great-grandparents to seek refuge in America. And here my grandmother would come to faith in the Messiah of Israel, Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus Christ, through a godly missionary to the Jewish people in Philadelphia. The government encouraged and then looked the other way as Russians attacked, harassed, and robbed their Jewish neighbors. But this was nothing new. Through the centuries, when governments needed diversion to draw attention away from internal problems, the Jewish people were always a convenient scapegoat. Between the years 1933 and 1945, the greatest attempt at genocide the world has ever known occurred. Under the depraved and satanically empowered genius of Adolf Hitler, 5.8 million Jewish lives were snuffed out in the death camps, gas chambers, and firing squads of the Third Reich. When many of the nations and religions, most notably the papacy, of the world had it within their power to save tens of thousands of European Jews, they took no action. Most world governments not only took no action, but they refused to increase immigration quotas and open their borders. Few raised their voices in protest. For 1900 years, the words, "No Jews wanted," could have been written over most of the nations of the world. What had the Jewish people done? What was their crime? Why this never-ending persecution? To blame it, as so many have, on the Jewish national rejection of Christ is to acknowledge a total lack of understanding of the Word of God. It is the worst kind of anti-Semitism, theological. Some have suggested hatred of the sons of Jacob was the result of their strange religion. In a day of polytheism, they believed in the one true universal God. Their dietary laws, strange dress, code of conduct, and aloofness from other peoples all serve to make them different and defenseless. Others have argued that abrasive character or excessive wealth and disproportionate influence are the root cause of hatred of the Jew. These are erroneous excuses used as an attempt to justify ungodly attitudes and remain widespread right up to the present hour of history. Sometimes, tragically, even among some who bring shame to the name of Christ by calling themselves Christian. The only accurate explanation for anti-Semitism is to be found in the fact that God sovereignly chose Israel, through her greatest son, to be the channel for universal blessing and the ultimate defeat of Satan. To retaliate, the secret purpose of Satan, therefore, has always been to destroy the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and thereby frustrate the divine plan for the redemption of mankind. This is a foundational principle for understanding the 4,000 years of human history since Abraham. In the Old Testament, had the Jewish people been killed off by marching armies or assimilated during her captivities, Jesus never could have been born in Bethlehem as the Son of David to die on Calvary for the sins of the world. And in the ensuing years, if the Jews had ceased to exist as a people through her many vicissitudes, if she were not brought back to establish the land of Israel, Jesus could not return to consummate our salvation. Jesus is not a usurper. He will return as the rightful heir to the throne of David. He will be the King of the Jews, and then King of all kings and Lord of all lords, the Lion of the tribe of Judah. Satan has used his considerable power through the ages to attack God's chosen people through governments, religions, and individual hatred. But in spite of satanically inspired crusades, pogroms, inquisitions, dispersions, ghettos, burnings, and butcheries, the Jews have miraculously kept their identity, their belief in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, their divine national destiny, and the promise of a land given to them by God forever was strong enough to enable them to grasp the tail of one of the cyclones of history and ride that cyclone through 2 world wars back to their ancient homeland. And now, as Israel celebrates the 75th anniversary of her miraculous modern-day rebirth, the evidence of God's faithfulness to His covenant people is clear and compelling for all the world to see. The God of the Bible, the God of Israel, is a covenant-keeping God. He has not, nor will He ever, renounce His promises to the Jewish people. He has a divine plan, and they have a divine destiny.